All right. All right, so we're going to get going, and if you have questions, Sarah is not here today, so I'm going to have to kind of monitor the chat as well as narrate. So don't hesitate to just ask a question in the chat, and away we'll go. So, all right. As we know, we always work better when we work together. So today what I want to talk about are some changes to the calendar that's coming up. Spend most of our time talking about Wisconsin Forward, and then also finish up with the climate survey. And if there's any other questions, we'll also be talking a little bit about opting out. So as far as the calendar goes, the only change is with the climate survey. And I'll double check. I gave the wrong date out last month. So the climate survey will be April 1 through the 26th of April. So unfortunately, it kind of collides almost and overlaps with the forward test, but I don't have any say in that. So we're going to just have to deal with it as we move forward. All right, the forward test window is going to be from March 18th through the 26th. So that's a week before spring break through the end, almost the end of April. Just a reminder, because this is for people who've done the testing before as well as those who don't, I'm going to hit some things that maybe you say, well, I already know that, but not everybody does. So again, this is for all students, each and every student between grades 3 through 8. This is a ticket test, ticket driven. There's a ticket going to be for each content area, unlike the MAP assessment, which is a password and proctor driven test. This is a little bit different. We will need to be using Chromebooks. So that's pretty much the only option that we have. And there will be a login from the app menu in the lower left. Students should not sign in as themselves on their Chromebook. They should log out and sign in, be there as a guest. Finally, remember that the forward is an untimed test. The times that we're going to talk about today are approximate. They're based on experiences of all the students in the state of Wisconsin for the last 3 years. So things have been adjusted, times have been changed, but we want to make sure that you understand that it is approximately the times that we're looking at. So here are some of the big changes for this year. Number one, there is a Spanish read aloud version. We did not have that in the past. You'll recall that in the past, if we had a text-to-speech option, it was in English only. It doesn't work with Spanish as of today. So what they've done is said, we're going to look at a Spanish read aloud approach as well. So Spanish read aloud would go with a stacked translation. So again, what that is Spanish, English, so the directions, Spanish the question, question in English, the answers in Spanish, the answers in English. This allows the person who is going to be doing the reading to actually read specifically the language that the test makers want to be read. So their only task would be to read, not to describe what that word means. They would simply be able to read the printed text that is on the screen. So that's one change. The second change is that the science test has been rewritten to align itself with the new state science standards, which means that the test will look very different than it has in the past. Because of the change in this, they have increased the section numbers from 2 sections of science to 3 sessions of science. So it is a longer test. Currently, we'll talk about the time, but they believe, they being DPI, believes it should take 40 minutes for each session. So this now becomes a 2-hour test in science alone. But we'll take a look at all the material in just a little bit. Finally, one of the things that is going on with the test across the state, DPI is really pushing the fact that we need to train our proctors. And so we'll talk briefly about that. One of the things they've found is that across the state, that the inconsistencies between how students are receiving the test, are being given the test, can vary pretty greatly. And so we want to unify and make sure that students in one Madison Elementary School are the same as the others. Likewise, students in Oshkosh and Appleton and Bayfield are giving the same instructions and have the same opportunities as our students. Here's the new estimated testing times. I want to point out a couple things. First of all, 4th grade and 8th grade continue to be the grades that have longer tests because they add the science and the social studies. So the English language arts and mathematics times have not changed this year. So those are the same as they have been in the past. Science test in 4th and 8th grade has changed. I believe it was about 90 minutes last year. It's now 120. You'll also note that the social studies test has decreased, has shortened in the time. They've taken out some questions because of the increase in length for science. So kind of they understand that we've added time here, they want to take away time there. Again, these are approximate times. We'll take a look at some of those sessions in just a little bit, what that means. So supports and accommodations. Again, Spanish read aloud is available. The student has to have both the Spanish read aloud and the stack translations in place in order for the Spanish read aloud to happen. Once again, text to speech, which is it should be the most common support or accommodation rather than the read aloud. Text to speech is only in English. The read aloud, whether it's in Spanish or English, requires separate training for the person who is actually going to be giving that support or that accommodation. They have to go through training because they need to know, for instance, how to consistently read numbers. Instead of saying 4,012, it's 4,012, etc. So there's a training that they have to go through and sign a document saying that they agree to the conditions of that. That will be posted on the website and available for everyone by the end of this week. Again, DPI is really emphasizing that the proctors are trained this year. So I am pushing and saying all proctors must be trained, and there is a DPI video that they can watch at their own pace. They can watch it in small groups. You can do it as a staff. It says it's 43 minutes, which is a long time. I understand that, but it covers a lot of material. And so there is a PDF of the training. There is a PDF of the PowerPoint slides available. Again, by Friday, this will all be on our website. So I have realized this is a time commitment beyond what we've talked about and had to do in the past. But again, in order to make sure that all students have the best opportunity, we really need to make sure our proctors know how to do the test. I will be sending to everyone who has signed up or who has happily volunteered as a test coordinator for the buildings, a confidentiality agreement. You need to sign that and send that back to me. At the building level, proctors will need to sign an agreement very similar to that and give it to you. I don't need that. You hang on to it for 1 year, so you can put it in a folder. You can put the proctor agreements in a folder, put the date on it, say shred on March 18th, 2020. And you don't even have to open it, just pull it out and shred it at that point. So we need to keep it for a year, however. One of the things that is going to be, that should be available, and I'll make sure, I'm sending this to printing tomorrow, so that each building will have a few of these around, is the accessibility guide. This actually gives all the information about things like what are the abbreviations on the ticket? What are the supports, the designated supports. What are the accommodations? So it provides some pretty good material that is important to share with the staff. I'll take one of those pages out, which is just a front and back. It has the symbol, the letters, for instance, NR, noise reduction headphones. So that you'll just be able to look on the ticket, says NR, oh yeah, and look over to the side and say they need to have headphones to reduce the noise. So it's kind of a cheat sheet and available for all staff. So I'll make a copy of that individually and put that on our website as well. Again, this is for those of you who've been through this, just a reminder, those of you who have not, this is important to understand that there are 3 different levels of tools, the universal, designated supports, and accommodations. Universal tools are for all students to have. They're always available, always on. There are tools such as highlighter, line guide, so that students can use that instead of pointing with their finger on the screen, they can just move the line down as they read. Those are called embedded supports or embedded tools. Non-embedded supports might be, in fact, noise reducing headphones, something that you have to provide. Designated supports are available to all students, but there must be a reason why they need this. Typically, it's something that's used by the students and the teacher on a regular basis in the classroom. So text-to-speech. If students are struggling readers, that they will struggle reading at grade level and typically have somebody who can help support them. These are students who don't necessarily have a 504 or an IEP. We can have text-to-speech. That would be an example of an embedded designated support. And finally, the accommodations are pretty, there aren't very many of them. They typically are like American Sign Language, Braille, closed captioning, etc. So I think we've taken care of all of those at this point through the Google Doc that was shared with each of the buildings. All right, so the Google Sheets, everybody, I think we've gotten them all now. So we're all good. If you are asking for something like, I think it's English Language Arts Session 4, which is the reading comprehension test. If you're asking for an accommodation for a student with an IEP that allows the text-to-speech to actually read the passage or to print questions on demand, these are accommodations that you as an individual school need to apply for. I cannot do it. So I don't think we have any or very many at all. We're well aware of who the students are, so most likely you do not have anyone who fits these particular, needs these criteria. All right, so everyone has shared with Sarah Wallner. They've double-checked the students with IEPs and English learners who need supports. If there are any changes, we need to do that on the back end, so please email both Sarah and myself these changes and we will get them taken care of. Now, starting Friday, the 22nd of February, the whole system is shut down for 2 weeks. We cannot make any changes. So we'll compile this list. If there are changes in a student's IEP, if there are new students who arrive and need English supports for them because they're English learners, please let us know and we'll compile that list, and once the site reopens, we will make those changes. We will be printing tickets and sending them to every school sometime after March 5th. So that should give us about 2 weeks from March 5th to when the window opens, roughly. Don't expect them on March 5th. That's when the site opens that allows us to actually go in and get the tickets. We will be printing them alphabetically by grade and color coded, so that you will be able to have the English language arts will be in white, for instance, math might be in blue, etc. So at a glance, you'll be able to tell which content area you're looking at. Unfortunately, they are still going to be, I think it's 4 or 6 or 8 tickets to a page. On each ticket, let's see if I actually have one. No. On each ticket is the student name and their ID number, but then also their username and password for that content area. So you'll need to, unfortunately, cut those apart and sort them. This might require a team approach. There's different ways of doing this, but they are secure materials, so you'll need to keep them handy. And I keep pushing on Data Recognition Corporation to give us a break with the tickets and to figure out a better way of doing this. But they haven't. All right. I realize that, again, you have your request for English language supports into us already. If you get a new student, if you are not sure what's going on and want to make a potential change, this decision tree has been very useful. This year it's brand new, and it will be found in the back of this document. It's the very last page. And so I think you've already been sent this document. So the very last page is the decision tree. And it says, you know, it goes from is language support needed? If the person is a Spanish speaker, and then it takes you through choices here. If they speak a language other than the Spanish, here are choices at the bottom. So hopefully we're getting to the point where the people who are creating this are helping us make decisions more uniformly across both the district as well as the state. And again, accommodation codes are being placed on the tickets, so you would have highlighter symbols or abbreviations for each one of these, as well as designated supports. We're getting close to the end on this. I would strongly urge that at least third graders be given a chance to play around inside of the Forward Test site. There is on our website, and I can send out a copy of the link, but there are item samples for each grade that will allow students to actually go in and take a look at 3, 4, 5, 6 questions in that content area, in various content areas. I think it's probably a good thing, especially for those who've never done this particular test before. This is something else that would work on Chrome, not on any other operating system. All right, before we jump into text-dependent analysis, just want to see if there are any questions. If so, let me know, and we can stop here. We all good? Okay, all right, we're going to keep going then. Now, text-dependent analysis is one of the 4 sessions for English language arts. This was new with the introduction of the Forward Test. It is a writing component, and it kind of is has been an interesting thing over the course of time. They've changed it this year. Each grade level has its own level of obviously it has its own text-dependent analysis material. This is also going on the website by Friday. There will be samples, there are scoring rubrics, but one of the things, 2 things that they've added this year, you can see the writer's checklist and the click to respond. This is something that is new, and I'm just learning about it and have a couple of pieces to share with you. So the writer's checklist, this is a pop-up screen that can be moved around the screen anywhere. And as you can see, it literally takes the students in on the planning process, focusing, and proofreading. The idea behind this is that this should not be a 2 or 3 sentence writing task. This is actually a 4 or 5 paragraph writing piece. One of the things that I did ask was, can we have a hard copy of this for students on their desk? And DPI has just announced today that yes, you can. So I will be creating a, I'll make sure, again, this writer's checklist is a document on the website. I'll probably be sending this out to everyone just so you have a copy of it. But you can treat it like scratch paper. The only thing is that when you are done with it, you as a proctor need to collect it. Students cannot take this home. I don't see why there would be any reason why you can't share this with students ahead of time. There's nothing secretive about this. It's a good writing process, and this is what they're looking for. So this will be a pop-up. You can also have it on the table next to the student while they test. The other piece that is changed in the text-dependent analysis is where the students will answer the question. So they click on the area that says click to respond, and they will have a text box that shows up. They will have up to 5,000 characters that they can write. My guess is that most of the third graders would not push it. My guess is most of the eighth graders will not be pushing 5,000 characters, but you never know. Across the top of this, you'll see a cut, copy, and paste buttons. They are able to cut and copy their own text. They cannot, let me repeat, they cannot highlight within the document the text itself, copy and paste it into their answer, which is, I believe it's called plagiarism. And so we want to avoid that. So that's not one of the features that students will be able to do. And so they will need to understand that ahead of time, especially students who are older, who've typically done this kind of thing before. I think in the past they could highlight this and copy and paste, not this year. So we've got some changes on the text-dependent analysis. Here are two critical pieces for TDA. Number one, Chromebooks need to have their keyboards set to the US keyboard. Last year and in the past years, we've had kids who've been typing away and suddenly the quote marks don't work. It's because they're set on another keyboard. Changing the keyboard in the middle of a test is not real conducive to successful testing. So I'll also be sending out a how-to document on how to change the keyboard. It's pretty simple. When the student is logged in as themselves, in the bottom right-hand corner of the Chromebook is they're able to select, for instance, which wireless they're connected with, and one of the settings is keyboard. You could set it to Spanish language. You could set it to multiple, there are different languages available. We need to make sure that it's set to US keyboard. The second piece that has changed is that crazy thing, the indent tab, or the tab key will now indent to form a paragraph. Funny thing, it didn't do that before, but that has been a change. So these are the two different things that we need to look at as far as technology is concerned for students to be able to be successful on their text-dependent analysis. Last bit of information about text-dependent analysis. It's preferable that students do this when you're scheduling, that they do this before they do mathematics, before they do all the other pieces of the ELA. If they're in 4th or 8th grade, I prefer it if they did this actually very first. None of the sessions have to go in any order. The reason why we're suggesting that TDA goes first is because the kids are freshest. They'll be able to focus, we believe, that they'll be able to focus the most, they'll provide the best response if this is first. So when you're considering scheduling, I worked with a school the other day that we actually put before spring break, we took the 4th grade and they're doing science and social studies before spring break. When they come back, they are going to do text-dependent analysis the very first thing, they're not even testing the week after they get back, but they're doing ELA and then mathematics. Text-dependent analysis is the first piece of the ELA test that they're doing after they have their come back from break. So if you have questions about scheduling, I'd be more than happy to share what I know, what's going on with other schools. And if I know every school is a little bit different, how you have to work with your Chromebooks. Some schools are fortunate that they're one-to-one, but not all. So just let me know if you have any questions about scheduling. Okay. Couple things. Just please keep in mind that I have the power to open or unlock some students' tests. And here's the piece that I use. This is the decision tree I have to work from. So first of all, if a student accidentally submits their text-dependent analysis before they're done, which happens, I can reopen that. I just need an email. I need the student's grade number, their ID number, and their name, and I'll be able to open that right up. The second thing that I can do is over on the third green box here. If a student has been in the test for less than 2 minutes and has completed 2 or fewer items, and then they hit submit, I can unlock that. They can only work from that point forward, so they have to start on question 2 or 3. But I can unlock that. I am able to see how long the student was in the test. So if the student was in the test for 3 minutes, which doesn't seem like much, but if they were in the test for 3 minutes, I cannot unlock them. In that case, it's more on this second green box, which is I need to call DPI for approval in order to unlock that. They will unlock it. So there's got to be a reason why the student should have that test unlocked. Whatever. I don't know what those reasons might be, but I need to have more than just because we'd like it. The final thing, and this does happen, student starts clicking through the test. Answer, 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 answer. You know, as fast as the screen refreshes, answering the questions, not even trying. We have 2 choices. Number 1, I can't unlock it. So they are done. We can submit it as it is. So if they answered all the questions and there are, 4 choices, their odds are they'll be at 25%. Or we can invalidate the test. We can say, test is no good, don't score it, we're done. And that's the choices. The student cannot start over. They cannot test again. It's either submit it or invalidate it. So it's really important that we emphasize with students that we're really working hard to take their time with this. And of course, there will be students who think it's a race because they don't want to test. Monitoring those students really is important so that they actually get a test score. Here's something else that's new this year. We have switched to a system that if there is a disconnection, if there is a problem with connecting with the internet, the computer will hold, you'll see a screen like this, and that circle in the middle will start spinning and it's retrying automatically. It will retry to connect several times. If you don't want it to do that, there is an exit the test at the bottom. It will save your work where you're at. So you will not lose anything. So if it continues to retry, it might try 4 or 5 times. If it cannot do this, if it cannot reconnect, then one of the things that it will do is it will actually say save and start again. So nope, that's not it. So it will tell you that it cannot connect. So that's hopefully is going to be something that is as a benefit. So Something to keep in mind, these things, cell phones, I realize especially in the upper grades, they're pretty ubiquitous. Everybody's got one. Please make sure students turn them to airplane mode, and they should be kept away. Airplane mode takes them off the wireless connectivity, off the wireless network, and then it really allows all the machines that are students are using to test have unlimited access to the wireless. So hopefully we won't have any issues with that. If you are concerned, connect with your building tech support person. I am working with tech services. We're going through the entire system to make sure that everything is ready, all the schools are ready, and we believe at this point that that should be the case. All right. I'm going to just continue. We're almost done with the PowerPoint. I'll stop the recording, and then if you have any questions, we'll continue on with that. So again, my mistake last month was I had the wrong dates on the climate survey. So the climate survey is April 1st through the 26th. There will be something on the library guide page, and so students will just be able to click on that. It's the same as before. There will be 3 languages available. Students can use the drop-down menu to move between each one of those. They can do that every page they want, if they want. The links will be, again, available through your library page. Finally, as always, but it's really important with the state-mandated tests, if there are opt-outs, I need to have a written request made to you or to the principal or the classroom teacher. That needs to be shared with me. The opt-out request can be either an email or a handwritten note. That's fine. If it's an email, please just forward it to me. If it is a handwritten note, scan it and send the scan image to me. We cannot accept phone calls or verbal requests. I mean, if it'd be nice and easy to say, hey, I'm here talking to you, please opt my child out. We need to have that in writing, because all of this information does go to the school board for approval in the summer. They like to know that these opt-outs were actually the families that were requesting the opt-outs and not a student doing it themselves. And then, of course, if you have any questions, give Sarah or I a call or email me or Sarah as well. All right, so I am going to stop sharing and we're going to stop